Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 31 of Casual Watch Talk. You're joined by myself, Sam, and my co-host, Chris. How have you been, Chris?
Well, pretty good. Good evening, Sam.
It's swelteringly hot here where we are.
Yep. I got the AC going. So my wife has an electric car, and she came home, and I, in the back of our house, I hear this humming noise, and I'm like, what's that humming noise? And she plugged in her electric car. We had our AC on, and we have our solar panels making about 3,000 watts of electricity. And so I looked, and I have one of those energy monitors, and I had close to 15,000 watts of electricity running through a panel behind my wall. And I was like, oh, okay, it's warm out, and we are using some electricity today.
Wow. Well, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I think a myth, certainly when I moved to California, or certainly this part of California, that's coastal, is the myth is that it's swelteringly hot all the time. Now, it's definitely sunny all the time, but It's not extremely hot. Like, in fact, not that often is it punishing like this.
Yeah. I'm an East Coast transplant and been out here for more than 15 years now. And even now, there are days that my wife and I we'll walk outside and just sort of joke like, oh, it's nice out. Like, you're definitely paying for the weather down here. So it's like, more often than not, it's just nice here all the time.
Yeah, I joke about Manchester, how it rained a lot of the time, and it really did rain a lot of the time. But anyway, it's not casual weather talk.
Casual weather talk.
That's our new branch off. We'll turn it back round to watches, of course. We always like to start off with our watch obsessions. So, Chris, I'd love you to kick it off. What have you been obsessed about or checking out this week?
So I've got two. One is a. All right, keep this quiet. Nobody say anything. It's a watch for my wife.
Oh,
it's a present. Yeah, secret. I'm not going to give too much details, but no, screw it. I'll give it out. German made. So, Stover.
Okay.
All right. They make a line of new modern Bauhaus style with the Arabic numerals, and it's designed by the same guy who did all the Macintosh, the early Apple designs.
Not Johnny Ives, no.
No, but it's the guy that did the 2C and the SE30 and some of the original Apple designs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I went back and forth. There's 3 sizes. 35. So this is the dilemma here. 35 manual wound. 36 automatic with a date. 39 no date central sub seconds. Wait, no, that's not right. Only the first. Anyway, okay. So then it was like a choice between 18 millimeters and 20 millimeters, and I wanted to get 20 millimeter, but because like she could have so many straps, right? This is like a purchasing problem for just super watch nerds. But then it was like, oh, but it's gonna be too big, and so like it doesn't have a bezel on it or anything. It's just like it looks very similar to like the Timex Weekender.
Okay.
It's and I'll give you the. Let me pull up the actual model here.
Stover's definitely a brand that I've not really looked at fully. I expect them to be the Flieger watches. Obviously, they're known for the simple military style watches, but I've never seriously looked at them to buy a watch, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah, they've got they've got this line called the Antia, and it's one of their smaller ones, and they've got some other stuff that's pretty interesting. Definitely check them out. I mean, they've been around for a long time, and like 1936 or something, I think, something like that. Manufacturing their Flieger watches for sure. They do a 3-hander that looks very similar to like a Damasco or a Zinn. So very like German style. But they do this Antia called Back to Bauhaus, and they do it in colors, fun colors. And yeah, it just really like struck me. I was like, oh, this is something perfect. And so because there's third, so the final decision was between the 36 and the 39, 36 and a half and 39. And it really came down to the fact that if it doesn't have a bezel, like a 39 millimeter watch without a bezel, that's a big looking watch. You know what I mean? Like you take like a Bambino, like you put just a 40 millimeter Bambino, and like you have a woman wear that's gonna look like one of those giant, fashion watch kind of size. And I know that wasn't, I was like, hemmed and hawed. So finally settled with the 36. What's interesting is they emailed me back after I ordered it, and they were like, what size is your wrist? So that we can size the strap. It was very opposite to what I would have expected for like a US e-commerce interaction, where basically, I clicked buy and I just want it to magically show up, and then they just sent me an email with this personal service. So it was nice, but at the same time I was a little like, right, are you going to send it? And then they told me that they were going to be like on holiday at the end of August, and that they wanted to get this out before then. And I was like, okay, that's great. I'd appreciate it if you do that. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, it's very, very like European German of them. It was very, So
you said you had another one as well.
I do. This is a kind of a side. This is a B mention, a side mention, and I think it's good enough to mention. But I was looking at other brands like Stova that are sort of under the radar that really deserve a closer look, because I think they offer that great value where they've got upgraded movements and super accurate and sapphire. They're checking all the boxes that I think a lot of micro brands are doing now, but also I think they've sort of always been doing this. I came across this Certina. Certina has a DS Action GMT.
Right.
That's it is on sale on a particular, it's on Joma Shop, so it's on our favorite gray market. And it is on sale for $595. Yeah. Mechanical GMT, and it's the Certina, it's based on the Powermatic 80. So it's got an 80-hour power reserve. GMT looks pretty good. It's not a bezel. It's got the it's basically got a chapter ring for the 24 hours, and you can't track 3 time zones by turning the bezel. It's got a fixed bezel insert and no bezel on it, so it's on the chapter ring. I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. It's got a fixed chapter ring, and it doesn't have a bezel on it, but. Really cool, sort of like second mention, DS Action GMT automatic. Check that out if you are at all interested in a great looking sports watch. This GMT travel watch. I mean, for that money, I'm super. I was like, that seems reasonable.
I've been holding fast on my no buying watches online, so I haven't been really obsessing over one. I'm expecting any time now for my Walbrook Skin Diver to come from Kickstarter. They've started shipping them out now. A few people have received them. I'm really looking forward to that. The design looks awesome for me. And I'm just really interested to see. It's been a long time. They had delays with COVID. We spoke about it on a couple of the episodes. Anyone who's not heard any of those previous ones, this is a brand that was spun up from a French company, I believe. And it was because Neil Armstrong really wore one of these watches. Like, his personal watch was this Walbrook watch, not obviously the Speedmasters. They had to, we've talked about this before, but they had to give those back to the US government, and Buzz Aldrin's was forever lost in the post. Which incidentally is like the holy grail, like the Paul Newman, isn't it? If they ever found that Speedmaster.
Oh yeah, and if they could ever like identify it as, I mean, I think they know what serial number and everything it is. So
be unbelievable. That, can you imagine if the Paul Newman got 17 million to actually have Buzz Aldrin's the first man to walk, the second man to walk on the moon, but the first one to walk on with an Omega.
Right. The first watch, right, on the very first watch on the moon.
I mean, it'd be incredible, wouldn't it? But,
for sure.
So I've been holding fast, but I've been really enjoying this Breitling B1. It's an Annie DigiWatch, and I uploaded a video to the channel where I replaced the battery on it, and I thought it was going to be a bit boring, but a lot of people really liked it. I think
good. That's good.
It's like a how-to video, but I'm loving this watch. I don't know why I never looked at it again. It's from 1997. It's Annie DigiWatch. It never came on my radar before, but there's just something really cool about it. The dial's awesome. It's got the measurement bezel, or the scale bezel, but it's got a really smooth action. So I've become a new convert to Breitling for some reason.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying it a lot.
That's great. I mean, it's definitely like you started rocky there, where you weren't sure what was going to happen with all of it, and then I'm glad that you're enjoying it. So
I ended up buying 2, didn't I? But maybe that's a topic for another story. But so depending on how successful I am at editing this podcast and getting it out, Chris and I are doing a chat with members of the Casual Watch Talk Facebook group. Either it's going to happen soon, or Chris and I did it, that everyone saw what we were really like and they've left the Facebook group.
Right, yeah,
what were those 2 options?
Exactly, close up shop. It was either a fantastic success or we'll never do it again. No, I'm sure it'll be fine. And yeah, if you do get it out before this Sunday, then maybe. But if not, if it's past that, then I'm sure we had a good time, and we will contemplate having a future one for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And I definitely think there's more live streams on the channel and stuff like that we'll definitely be doing. I know that people are really enjoying those. I watched quite an interesting one from Adrian at Bark and Jack, and what was interesting is he's more conversational. I've always been worried about live streams because I'm like, well, what am I going to talk about? And he was talking about watches whilst he was in a field somewhere in Scotland, and also talking about bats and stuff like that. So it was like a stream of consciousness, and I thought, I can definitely do that.
Yeah,
it was really interesting, actually.
We had one of our members go to an event, and it was all socially distanced with masks and everything, and trying to be as safe as possible. But it didn't hit, and so I offered up maybe for those of us who can't get out and are not going to get out and do face to face, maybe we can do the next best thing where we can kind of hang out and do like a roundtable discussion. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. Okay, so we like to kick these things off with news stories. It's been a bit light on the news story. One of them, though, I'm going to talk about we talked about the Hodinkee travel clock, and if you've not seen this is the latest kind of drama in the watch industry, or the watch world, I would say. So I'm going to talk a bit about that, but just to start with, Chris, you noticed this one. Federico did a video on whether Tudor were going to start selling their in-house movements. I don't know whether we know any more than that, do we? Did you get a flavour for where he got this story from? I mean, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure where he picked it up, but he was reporting that so in the past, Tudor and Breitling, as a matter of fact, have swapped movements, where Breitling provided a chronograph movement to Tudor, and Tudor provided their one of their COSC certified movements for Breitling stuff, because all Breitling now is COSC, I believe. And then the company that manufactures, and let me get this right, that manufactures Tudor movements.
I mean, Breitling really, they were pioneers as well. I mean, that Caliber 12 that we talked about and those original Hoyer Monacos before they formed TAG. I mean, that was a movement that was designed with Breitling and Hoyer and Hamilton Buren and Dubois, that name I can never say. I need to do a history of Breitling because it's fascinating going right back to, the Second World War. They were pivotal. Those Navitimers were used by the Allied forces, even though Breitling himself was, I think, German, but he would fly the watches over to the Allied forces. I need to do a proper history on it.
Yeah. Unpack that, yeah. So Tudor's movement maker, Hodinkee, they're looking to offer, their movements for other watches. So it'll be sort of interesting that over at least the last 5 years, we've sort of elevated to the nth degree of in-house movements. And for those of you maybe first-time collectors or first-time watch enthusiasts or just starting out in the collection and the hobby, in-house movement is a checkbox that luxury brands, I think, wanted to fill over the last maybe 5 years, and I think people got a little too pretentious with it, where if you were just a regular luxury watchmaker and you just had a regular ETA made for you, then you weren't really serious about being a luxury watch manufacturer. This kind of pretentious nature to it. And we've kind of talked about it before on the show. I feel that it really is sort of a business decision where you just control whether you're Rolex, whether you're Apple computer, whether you're Amazon. You want to control the channel.
Yeah,
you want to control your you want to own who makes your hairsprings. You want to own and control who makes every single part. That integration, that channel integration of every single part. So it's more of a business decision, but they kind of spun it as a marketing decision. Anyway, I think for the last 5 years, I think we've hit peak, in-house movement. And now it seems like we're turning around where now we have these Tudor's movement maker, Hodinkee, is turning around and saying hey, we're going to make movements for other watches. And I think they'll sort of take a little bit of the prestige, hey, we make movements for Tudor, so are they good enough for your luxury watch brand kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a fascinating one. This next is a follow-up from the Hodinkee story. If anybody's not familiar with it, Hodinkee teased a new limited edition something on their website, and I think this is what kind of got people's back up. And then when they released it, it was a travel clock. And if anybody's not heard of it, this travel clock was limited to 96, and they wanted nearly $6,000 for this travel clock. Now, they got a visceral reaction from the watch collecting community. I mean, they still sold them all because they still sold them all, but they got such a visceral reaction that they posted a reply on their website. Did you read this, Chris?
I did, and almost a rebuke. It was a reply, but I would almost say a rebuke because I pulled away 2 things out of that. I'm sure you had a couple from that particular one.
Well, what I did, Chris, was at the end of the article, it says, please email us. And I started crafting an email to, I'm going to murder his name, but it might be Onru, or the guy who wrote the article. And I thought about emailing it over, but I might as well just read it out on here because this was my thoughts on this clock. I might as well read it out on here. It's more like an open letter to Hodinkee and then see what you think.
Okay.
It starts off with, hey, Onru, or the Hodinkee team. I just wanted to email you regarding your article on the 8-day clock, blah, blah, blah. And then I just put, just be honest. Just be honest. I'm a watch content creator, and I did cover the subject on a recent podcast. So I said to them, so the main crux of it, I said, for me, this symbolizes the reason that I dread Hodinkee now doing releases of watches. Every watch release has almost become a meme now on watch forums. I think you're talking the talk about wanting to be accessible to watch fans, but your actions speak far louder. You've created false scarcity on your limited edition watches that I feel is doing more harm to the watch collecting community than good. One example that comes to mind, other than the now infamous blue Seiko Alpinist, is the Oris 65 you made.
Mm.
Hodinkee made probably the best version of that watch that has ever been made. A stunning grey bezel. The dial was spectacular. The price was high, of course, but not excessive. The problem, you made them limited edition. Just like the majority of other watches you co-brand, that meant that genuine fans, like myself, ended up being held to ransom by watch flippers. I have no data on this, but I imagine 90% of the people buying these limited edition watches are watch flippers. It certainly feels like that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine the argument is, we bulk order these, it's a risk. There is no way that Oris wouldn't make that watch again if you came knocking, or even regularly make them for you. It's a quick cash grab with no thought put into how it damages your own brand and feeds the viper's nest of watch flippers, in my view. And then the final paragraph I put, I can understand limited edition Omega watches. This is a high-valued watch to take a gamble on a specific variant of. But when you start taking everyday watches like the Oris 65 or the Seiko Alpinist and making these limited edition, you are crossing a major line for me. You're taking an everyday watch and making it elitist. Your 8-day clock was the prime example of that thinking. The Jaeger LeCoultre clock this is based on, in mint condition, can easily be found for less than $1,000 on eBay. For me, it was the pinnacle of what can we possibly get away with this time. I didn't look at it and think, wow, they've really taken watchmaking and the travel clock to the next level. Don't take my word for it. Read any forum posts on that clock over the last week. The defenders seem to be saying things like, well, they can charge what they like and people will buy it. If that's what you want to be known for, then that's a real shame for the community. And I put, if your mantra is to serve every watch collector, then do that. I see the clocks are now sold out, so that my subject is probably a moot point. Just my opinion for what it's worth.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and Sam, I think you're at your you nailed it. Like you nailed they are damaging. They're damaging. They have damaged their sort of reputation here, because my take was, and this falls under what I was saying about the rebuke. They said, well, we offered that limited edition Flick Flack watch and that System 51 for $150, and I was like, oh, you guys,
it's ridiculous.
That was
the worst thing they said. That proved how elitist they are. They're like, oh, for the peasants, we made this Swatch watch.
Right. I mean, I can think of 100 ways like that they could have, from my sales and marketing background, like I could think of 100 ways they could have done it better. And I mean, I even offered up, so my comment in our casual watch talk was they could have done like $150 quartz version that like looked just about the same, but like didn't have gold inlay or something, just make it almost the same. Right. But if you're really a connoisseur, we have these like limited ones, but we don't, you don't even need to worry about like how to get those, this sort of thing. Like we're just going to like focus on this one thing, but no, it was just about this limited edition. How much can we charge? And, they came back and said, oh, we began as a place for people to learn about and begin collecting watches, and it's important that we offer products that make that accessible to more people. And then my response was, you then roll a YouTube video with like 57 of the most rare Rolex Submariners on the earth.
Yeah.
Like let's see the G-Shock collection. Let's see the Casio collection. Let's see the Swatch collection. Let's see the Omega Speedmaster collection, and let's see the reasonable, the old divers and, some other stuff. Did you see the video about the restored Tudor they just did?
Awesome.
I know. Incredible. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like...
You might as well explain what the premise of the video is, because it's fascinating.
Oh, it really was. So gentlemen in Vietnam, right? Was it Vietnam or Korea? Yeah. Okay, it's Vietnam. Gentlemen in Vietnam basically shot at, was injured, had the watch stopped the bullet and saved his life. And so I don't remember like if he had his arm up or it was in his pocket or something, but like the side of the case, like basically you can see where a bullet ricocheted off the side of the lugs of this case. And the crystal popped out, and and his buddy, who like picked him up and put him on a helicopter to save his life, kept a hold of this watch. And 20, 30 something years later, they got back together, and he was like, I have this watch. And so they Hodinkee covered that when they like got back together, and like the return of that watch to the owner was just amazing. And then Tudor stepped in and said, we want to make this work again. And so they did a full restoration, and they did it in a way that they kept the integrity of the case. And so they had to cold form stainless steel. So fascinating. Absolutely super fascinating. Definitely check it out. But there's the conundrum. There's the like 50-50 where you're like, you make this stuff and it's amazing. And then meanwhile, this overly pretentious hipster crap that you're just like, oh, well, it's $5,000. And,
It's amazing, isn't it? It seems like they're almost, you've got like the editorial piece. I mean, and this guy even mentioned that the shop part is different than the other thing.
He did.
Than the other parts.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's a real shame. I mean, this is going to blow over, but there'll be other limited edition watches. I mean, they'll make another gorgeous Oris and it'll sell out in seconds. And this isn't sour grapes from my point of view, because for me, limited edition watches, I think they're acceptable under like a handful of cases. One is maybe it's using a rare material, Omega with its moon dust. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a Kickstarter watch, or it's a new watch that is trying something different and they don't yet know what the market is. So the Kickstarter, they don't know what the market is. It's limited edition because they don't know. Or maybe it's a new type of movement or something along those lines, that it's, hey, we're making this new type, like the Ulysses Nadan, that new rotor that they designed a couple of years ago. Hey, it's limited edition. We don't know how it's going to perform. We love it, but you will see.
That's right. They came out when they said we don't this is a brand new movement. We've tested it a bunch, but like we're concerned of the longevity of it. We want to make sure that this lasts forever, kind of thing. Yeah.
But where I don't accept limited editions are where they're everyday watches. Omega's prime for this. So you could say, Omega. Well, they're commemorating the 50th anniversary date. So obviously there's only a limited edition because it's the 50th anniversary Moonwatch. No, you can buy an Olympic watch from Rio. They still sell that model. That was a date in time that they still make it from. There's no special limited edition or anything like that. Or anything that Hodinkee does where, we made this design. Well, all they're doing is they want that cash straight away. They want it. They want that return on their investment straight away. They don't want to have it as a regular model. They want to create like this false scarcity. There's no way that if Oris made them 1,000 dials, there's no way Oris couldn't make them 10,000 dials or 100,000 dials. It's this short term. No, we've got to get it now. We've got to get the money now.
Yeah. I think it's false scarcity. I think it really just comes down to false scarcity, and and the other thing with the micro brands is, which you absolutely I have absolutely no problem if a micro brand says, we're only going to make 500 of these, but listen, if these sell out, then absolutely we'll go back and make another edition, or we'll make another run of them. So it's like limited run versus limited edition.
100%. It's like your micro brews or whatever that you're into. Small breweries we're going to try this chocolate beer. We're going to actually make it a limited run because we don't know how good it'll be. But imagine if Coors turned around and said, we're making a limited edition beer. People are like, come on. You're one of the biggest, Anheuser-Busch, you're one of the biggest breweries in the world. We're not biting that.
It's a golden bottle 6-pack, and it's only available for 3 days in September. Yeah, no, you're absolutely, and everybody.
Hey, it's Chris from the Casual Watch Talk podcast. As our longtime listeners know, we often talk about cars here on the pod, and that's no coincidence. Like a lot of mechanical watch lovers, we're both into cars and racing. A couple years ago, I curated a collection of automotive-inspired straps, and started the Camping Auto Club. Camping Auto Club watch straps celebrate the rich history of automotive liveries with their inspired colors. Available in a single pass NATO, 2-piece, and our new super comfy elastic NATO. Check out Camping Auto Club on the web. That's championship in Italian, CAMPIONATO.club.
Be like, what the hell is this?
Exactly. It's so funny, isn't it? But I know this happens in. It's not just. Unfortunately, it's not just in watch communities, is it? It's across the broad spectrum. We talked about the knife community and things like that.
Exactly. That false scarcity that you're just like, guys, like, are we running out of stainless steel? Do we not have enough?
Okay, well, before we dive into our main topic, which is another one that I'm really looking forward to talking about, because I know it certainly affects me, but we'll keep it a little secret before our ad break. So we'll just pause for a very quick ad break. Hey everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. This might be a bit uncomfortable to talk about this subject, I think, and certainly I'm sure this has probably happened to the majority of watch collectors. What would you say, Chris? You think all watch collectors have had this at one time or another?
Yeah, I think if you're into the hobby for maybe you're more than 3 watches and for more than a year, this has probably been here. probably happened. And
it's definitely been compounded by, I would imagine, COVID and staying at home and only being able to shop online.
I was just going to mention that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you want to kick it off, seeing as it was your idea? It was a good one.
Sure. So great article over at Worn and Wound, and it's entitled "We've All Been There," and it's you have the excitement of getting your new watch, and it gets delivered to you, and you rip open the packaging, and it just doesn't live up to your expectations. And it's not necessarily the brand's fault, and the boxes are checked, the pictures you saw were fine, but you just don't connect with it, and it's just not you. And you look at it and you're like, well, maybe I'll put another strap on it. I've got lots of straps, so I'll go and do that. And you put it on a different strap and you're like, yeah. And also, like, you didn't take the sticker off the back of it, and like you didn't completely, and you didn't completely like get rid of all the like packaging, and already that like should have told you that like you're in trouble. So pretty interesting article. That's what we're going to chat about, and it has a lot of men looking forlorn in the distance, and I feel they did it sort of tongue in cheek, but pretty funny, because you have these expectations, and then you're met with it, and you're like, oh, disappointment.
I agree. This has happened to me 2 very notable times where straight off I've been like, oh no, that's not for me. And then I think I suffer from this. I don't know if you do, Chris, but where you get it and you're like, oh, that's okay. Yeah. And there's like a few little things, and like an annoying roommate, those things start compounding over time. Right. And then you're just like, right. I hate you after like 3 weeks. Yeah. You like it at the start.
So you're gonna do the dishes? Because you need to do the dishes. And you're like, oh, this one thing. You're like, God damn it, man.
I know, it's hilarious. But I'll kick it off with the first time this ever happened to me, maybe. Well, the first time most notably was I was obsessed with Fortis watches. I loved the Roscosmos link, and Joma Shop had the titanium, the Roscosmos one, the classic, the Cosmonautis one, the B42, and they had it in the chronograph, and then they had it in just like a 3-hander. Now, this is when I was first getting into watches. The 3-hander was like $600, and I was like, wow, that's really expensive. And then the chronograph was $1,200, which now they're much more expensive than that. But anyway, so I bought the 3-hander, and when I got it, it was huge. The dial didn't have a lot of printing on it, and the dial looked like this is the dial for a chronograph. Lots of gaps on it, and just straight away, I just did not like it. And I did what you said. I swapped the strap on it, but I was not feeling it.
Yeah. I like the look of the Speedmaster, but the reason why I probably will never own one is because everyone owns one. And that's a weird collecting thing with me. and it's very much like I don't know. I think it's like I could compare this to like most of a lot of other things in my life. Like I'm definitely the person that is interested in like the cars that not everyone has.
Yep.
Great. It's a great watch. It's prestigious. I mean, fantastic, et cetera, et cetera. It's got all that, but that it just never hit for me. And then sort of the fact that like everybody's driving around in that same car, then you kind of feed that feedback loop starts to happen, and you're like, I don't know if I want the same. You know, it's like everybody's got that Toyota, and you're like, am I the guy with that Toyota? You know, like, but everybody has one, and it's just kind of something I've done, and so I was obsessing about Speedmasters, but again, this is early when I was getting involved with watches, and I was not going to plunk down the cash for a Speedmaster. And same thing with your Fortis. I guess I probably should, because maybe I would have beat the market at the time. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. And I settled on almost a lookalike. If you've seen there's a Citizen EcoDrive chronograph that's got a tachometer bezel, and it's on a rally leather strap, and it's it's very Speedmaster-esque with the date. And I did the same thing. I got it home, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And, like wore it straight for probably like a couple weeks.
No.
No, maybe less. It was maybe like a week, and changed the strap on it, did some other stuff. And then the fact that it has, so it's a chronograph, but instead of having the 12-hour markers on it, it has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then the triangle at the top.
Oh, right.
And the fact that and now I'm like drawn to Arabic in 12 and not the minute markers.
Yes, yeah.
Because I want to know what time it is and not how many minutes have been by. Because I can just look. Like, minutes are easy for me, but like hours are hard as far as like looking at a watch quickly and being like, what time is it?
Yeah.
So yeah, the visibility, and then it just became this thing where I was like, I'm staring at these numbers, and I'm like, and then missed a meeting or something because I was just staring at these numbers, and I just looked quickly, and I thought like, oh, it's 5:00 or whatever, and I was like, no, it's 9:30 or something. You know what I mean? Like, it was just some weird where just like the numbers didn't equate in my head. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm done with this. Oh, I can't have it anymore. I am disappointed.
Oh no, that's bad. My next one, I mean, this happened very recently, didn't it? And you were helpful on this one. That flipping Squally 50 Atmos. I mean, I was obsessing about that watch, that blue dial, and everything. It had everything I wanted. It had the history. It was a dive watch. The case looked awesome. But when it arrived, I was just like, oh no. And I should have packed it straight up. I should have just packed it up.
Right. I think that's the lesson, that the takeaway here is like, if you open the box and you're like, huh? And you have that like inkling now. I think on the third one, like this happens 3 times. Like on the third one, I'm going to be like, nope.
Yes.
I'm like, no, I'm going to maybe pull it out. Don't pull any of the plastic off. Have a look at it. Contemplate your life choices, and then send that thing back, and hopefully not get dinged for the restock.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing to be careful of, isn't it? And I did fully unwrap the watch. I mean, I was all in testing it out. I sent it around to your house, didn't I, so that you could try it out.
Because I was interested too. I mean, I love the dial on it, and it was very interesting because you immediately were like, "No, something's wrong." You're like, "It doesn't do it." And so you just kind of immediately get that feeling, and it's like, oh,
well,
no.
The proportions were all off. For me, it was uncomfortable to wear, and I've very rarely ever had an uncomfortable to wear watch. I took a hit on that. I had to sell it on eBay in the end because I'd taken all the plastic off and I'd voided the return warranty.
That's right. Yeah, and they weren't gonna take it. Yeah, there's another lesson for you guys. Just don't take any of that plastic off, because the second you start peeling that plastic off, you own that. Even if you're super careful pulling it off a bracelet, I mean, I'm petrified. Like if I pull a watch off a bracelet that I either don't own or that I think I might return, like, oof, like it's like any little scratch there, you're done.
Oh, exactly. And it's difficult as well, isn't it? Because some watches do look miles better on another strap. Like my little Citizen's it was on its titanium bracelet when I first opened it, and it's never been never been on that bracelet again. It's the most pristine bracelet I've got.
Right. Yeah. Some watches. Yeah. So my next one was one I think I mentioned on the channel, but it was I picked up a Contrail with the stainless steel 12-hour bezel in blue. It was that super sunburst blue, and it looks really good. It was a purchase to kind of celebrate the end of something, and I was like, okay, this is good. It's kind of like I thought like I could connect, with that. And I was like, okay, all right. Same thing with the Citizen. Right away, I sized the bracelet, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what's up with this bracelet, but I can't do it. And so it was off the bracelet. And so then it was on to a series of, I had it on a couple silicone straps, because it's kind of a, it's kind of a diver sort of style, with the bezel and whatnot. It's a kind of a crossover. You would think like on paper, rotating 12-hour bezel, can dive with it, screw down crown, great Miyota movement, sapphire, of course, like it check. Yeah. But for some reason, the case proportions and the stainless steel bezel, I thought I would sort of fall in love with, but it was hard to see, and it makes the dial look different size. And this is me. Like, don't. If you guys have one of these,
it's so individual, isn't it?
Yeah, do not listen. Right. This is just our individual gripes of our own issues with things. So I had worn it. I had it. It was featured on my Instagram for a good couple of weeks, and then I just was like, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of done with it, and so I did the same thing. Luckily, though, the blue had sold out. I kind of lucked out on this. So the blue, because they're a microband, the blue dial had all sold out on their website. And so then I went on eBay and was like, well, if you missed it, you can get one. So I probably only maybe 10% on that, maybe 5-10% on that. Wasn't too bad, but
I did the same with the Laurier, actually.
Yeah.
I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I just stuck it on eBay just to see what would happen, and I managed to make my money back on it, minus the eBay fees. That was a thing where I loved the design of it, but the acrylic crystal, I knew it was going to start annoying me. I just knew it, which was bizarre because my Speedy had an acrylic on it, but
that you bashed around for how many years without sort of being a watch,
This is
watch aware.
Been a really interesting subject. You guys, if you're not members of the Facebook group, you'll have to head on over there and let us know if there's any watches that you bought straight away and not like them.
Yeah, I just thought, no, it's not going to click. And it's also interesting on the flip side of that. I'll pull this positive here. I've had fantastic honeymoon. And not only honeymoon period, but I've had fantastic rediscovery of some of the watches that I've owned that I've been like, man, this is so freaking good. Where you have something that maybe sat in the watch box for 4 or 5 months or whatever while you were enamored with your current everyday, or you just had your everyday on, and then you weren't focused on like what was in the watch box, and then you go in and you're like, ah. And I had. So when the pandemic started, I put the 103 on a gray NATO, and it was like all over again. It was so good. I was like, oh, this watch looks so good on just like a regular, like green NATO, gray NATO, whatever, just like a regular NATO strap. I was like, oh, it looks so good. And I just like a couple of pictures on Instagram. I was like, yeah, shit, that does look good. And you're like, yeah.
I'm like that with that turtle, that ultimate turtle. That'll never leave the collection. I love that watch.
Yeah. Because like you'll like forget about it, and then a few weeks or months later, you're just like, oh, this watch is so good. So I enjoy that, and I think that if whether you have 3, 5, 20, 120, whatever, how many watches in your collection, as long as you get that and you can go back in and pop something on your wrist and get that same sort of feeling like, oh, this is just a great watch, then I think I think the hunt is worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great topic. Let us know over on the Facebook group. Any final words on that, Chris? Or should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
As always, guys, we really appreciate you watching. As mentioned, join us over on the Facebook group. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the podcast on your favourite podcasting apps. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.